Belichick's lost a step to me.
I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this.
This is Anik Squared.
That's right. It is Anik Squared, episode 17. It is Wednesday, December 28th, 2022. It's the holiday season, of course. Nobody likes a holiday season more than my co-host, Jon Anik. Anyway, appreciate you being with us. My name is Jason Anik, joined by my identical twin brother, UFC broadcaster, Jon Anik. So this is our 17th broadcast, week 16 in the NFL in the books. Before we get into that, how are you?
None of my shirts fit 3 days after Christmas, so I got to hit the pavement maybe later today. Maybe not, though. Might just go to Duck Donuts instead and just keep it going. But no, it's great to be back, and made a little money this weekend, despite the fact that I lost $600 combined on the Dolphins and the Jets in those two games. Other than that, I did quite well. So we're feeling pretty good, even though maybe my record here on Anik Squared does not reflect that sentiment.
Certainly a big swing on the Los Angeles Chargers the other night, was there not for you?
We'll take it. Take it.
Big swing.
Cleaned up my mess.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, for those of you who don't know, on Anik Squared each week, we pick 5 games in the NFL against the spread and against each other. Our ultimate goal being to submit 5 picks, which we do jointly to the Circa Million for Pro Football Contest. So let's get right into it, man. Heading into week 16, I had a 3-game lead after a 5-0 and didn't gloat about it because you can be sure I didn't win a single game this week.
Not a game.
0-4-1 for me. We will take that push. I was so happy with that push on the Steelers. We'll get into that. 2-2-1 for you. So we'll get into that real quickly. So you picked up 2 games. So the lead is now down to 1 game, which is just absolutely beautiful going into week 17. Couldn't ask for anything more. Let me quickly get into my bad weekend, if you don't mind. So the 0-4-1 first pick, Browns -3 versus the Saints. This was a really close game on paper. If you watch the game, I didn't see a ton of it. Kind of a couple average football teams, but the stats were super close. Certainly Cleveland had their opportunities, but you said, you lay off a game. Weather was certainly a factor in this game. 17-10, they lose a game. They had a chance to tie it late. I just thought it was a great opportunity for the Browns, seeing the way everybody in the AFC who is on that fringe of the postseason seems to be losing. That was the first loss. My next loss, Titans -5 versus Texans. No excuse. Shouldn't have played the game, but the Titans -5 certainly was reflective of Tannehill being in the game. And Mike Vrabel did say that he was going to play through pain. That was how it was when I made the pick. But you alluded to where we play. The Texans were +7 when we recorded on Tuesday last week. So I did play the Texans +7. The line closed close to 3. That is what it is. Lost on the Titans there. The Lions -2.5 at the Panthers. Steve Wilkes did it to me. I knew he was going to do it to me. Sort of, I don't even want to say the luck ran out. The Lions, just the defense reared its ugly head, gave up 320 on the ground. That is what it is. And then my final loss, Bears +9.5 versus the Bills. Now, full disclosure, I did have the Eagles, but on the format last week, we weren't allowed to be on the same side. We're going to scrap that moving forward. But I had Bears +9.5 versus Bills. They were up 10-6 at the half, but got mauled by 22. And then we'll take the push. Steelers -3 versus Raiders. That was an emotional night. Sunday night, Franco Harris's number being retired days after he passes, and the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. Kenny Pickett, and Franco Harris actually introduced Kenny Pickett at the draft last year, which is just unbelievable. But he leads a drive, 2 minutes, 9 seconds left in the game. He leads a drive, so they win by 3. We did get the Steelers 2.5 in the contest, but that was my one push. 0-4-1. Jon Anik, 2-2-1. Talk to me.
Well, I also want to say about the Chicago Bears, you had them catching 9.5 home to the Buffalo Bills. I think I had them +18.5 in a teaser. Didn't even get that home. So, 2-2-1 hit on the Giants +3.5 at the Minnesota Vikings. I'll be betting against the Vikings again in week 17, and back and forth affair. Most people are going to be able to score on Minnesota. New England was able to do so. 49ers -7 against the Washington Commanders. Seahawks +9.5 at the Chiefs, probably my worst pick of the week. The Dolphins -4 against the Packers. I mean, I had a lot of money line tickets tied to Miami as well. I couldn't possibly have foreseen what happened to Tua and the 3 fourth-quarter interceptions, and then a push on the Eagles +6 at the Cowboys. Felt like we had a pretty good number. Felt like we should have, could have, and would have gotten that number home. But it is what it is. It's 2-2-1. More importantly, I like tequila, but I don't necessarily want to take 5 shots of tequila in like a 20-minute span at 11 o'clock in the morning and have a head-to-head loss to you. So it's a 1-game lead for you now, heading into week 17, and that's exactly the way we want it, essentially, is it to be close down the stretch. This goes through the Super Bowl, so we both have the same amount of wins, but I'm 2 back in the loss column, and therefore a 1-game deficit, yes?
Correct. 3 ties for me, 1 tie for you. But anyway, let's quickly get to our picks that we made for the Circa Million 4 Pro Football Contest. So interestingly enough, this week, we go back and forth on, sometimes it'll be a joint effort. Sometimes John will take a couple of my plays, a couple of his plays. Maybe, as the week goes on, a lot of times our plays on Anik Squared don't translate by the end of the week. We don't necessarily like that side. But for the first time all season, I sent you 5 and you went with the 5. So I will say that, you maybe had agreed on some of the games, but as I look back quickly on the games that weren't in, the 49ers -7 that you loved, and certainly your sportsbook indicated that, I wish that had made it into our 5. But heading into week 16 in the Pro Football Contest, we were 38, 34, and 3. We went 2 and 3. So we now sit 40, 37, and 3.
Oh, God.
It is what it is, above 500, but certainly not going to cash. So let's get to the 2 wins first. First win, Bengals -3 at the Patriots, right? So anyone who saw that game, Bengals out to a big lead, Patriots came back, found a way to lose a football game in a different fashion. They just find different ways to lose games. But I don't want to talk about this game. I want to talk about our nephew, Andrew, from Needham, Massachusetts, who walked into dinner last night. Dude is 7 years old, rocking the fucking Joe Burrow player tee. Okay. Kid's from Massachusetts, right? And his dad's there wearing like a Patriots t-shirt, right? Now, my daughters aren't hugely into sports, but down here in Miami, you could be sure they're Boston sports fans. We grew up in Boston. So this kid's rocking the Joey Burrow player tee. And I'm asking his dad, like, what's going on? He's like, oh no, he's like a Bengals fan. He just started liking sports a year ago. And I test. Yeah, I don't blame him, and it happens sometimes. I guess Bengals were in the Super Bowl last year, whatever it is. He said he likes the color orange. But I don't hate it, and typically I would hate it. So anyway.
Well, I love it. And I also feel like it's interesting that on Christmas Eve, the Bengals and Patriots were going to be playing, and he is in a Patriots family. And so he's asking his mom in like a confrontational way, our first cousin, Lindsay, like, hey, are there going to be any Pats fans where we're going so I can puff out my chest? Like he wants at the New England fans. So unlike our daughters who for a time collectively, because we live in South Florida, tried to throw the Dolphins in our faces. Now they're all Patriots fans, right? They want to be on the New England side. This kid, like he wants to be up in the face of the Patriots fans. And at 7 years old, you got to respect it.
Yeah, he's like bad Anik, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so we did get the Bengals -3 home against Patriots. They win by 4. Second hit, Steelers -2.5. We talked about this versus the Raiders. Got a good number there. We did carry the Browns -2.5 into this. Man, I would have loved to get that home. I would have liked this story. I'm not necessarily rooting for Deshaun Watson, but I really would have liked to. I'm very anxious to see that team with him at the helm. But that didn't come in. Lions -2.5 at Panthers. This just disappoints me as a football fan. They leave control of their own destiny. But we were on the Lions there. And then we did carry the Dolphins -3.5 versus the Packers. Yikes, man. Like no Tua this week. They lost 4 straight. I mean, unbelievable, man.
Yeah, and, we couldn't have foreseen that this would be the week in which the Detroit Lions just had a total stinker. I want to give credit to Carolina, of course, but that game kind of is what it is. But, yeah, Miami, man, 4 consecutive losses and yet still firmly in control of their own destiny. Going to be very interesting to see if Teddy Bridgewater can do his part and manage the game enough for them to win at New England. I think he can, but we'll see.
So I know you don't like talking about concussions. So did you see the footage of the play where it could have happened, where Tua hit the back of his head? And correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't see any footage of like after that, right? Of him getting up, correct? I don't think there's anything out there of him and maybe it was nothing, right? But like, he's a pretty accurate guy. I know he has his moments, but he looked real bad. And after he was supposedly concussed, right? Those 3 picks were just terrible to me. And it's like, I don't know, man. Like the third, it's not just a couple concussions. It's probably at least 3 this year for this dude. And it's,
oh yeah. Well, and I do think to some extent as the player, you got to know your own head and your own body a little bit. And if you think it's affecting you, probably got to sit yourself down, even though the backup option isn't great. But again, and I was on a Pro Football Focus podcast earlier today, and we talked a lot about concussions. And in a perfect world, right, there were a lot of medical people who wanted to a shutdown for the season, given the nature of what happened earlier. And, 3 or 4 weeks, sometimes it feels like it's an abundance of caution, and it's like a third of the requisite amount of time you need to allow your brain to recover. So, yeah, it's really disappointing and hopefully not career-altering for Tua.
I think it already is, and I think it's going to be. I hate to say it. But speaking of Miami, if they win and the Jets lose to Seattle, they're in. It's amazing how many teams really do control their own destiny. This 7th playoff spot, I cannot get enough of it. I understand.
See, I like it, but it's like, wow. I mean, you can really get in on trash day now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if you can get in winning Brady's division at 8-9 or 7-10,
Look at the Titans and the Jaguars.
Exactly. So whatever. To me, I just like all the scenarios. Patriots win and they're in, right? They win too, right? I mean, they win both games, they're in. I mean, whatever. Just fascinating. The other thing I want to just get to, in that AFC where everybody's losing, the Chargers weren't. They've won 3 straight and they punched their ticket. Should be fun with Justin Herbert in the postseason, whether it's, I guess if it happened today, I think it'd be at Cincinnati. I'm not sure it's going to hold out that way. But my guy, Kyle Van Noy from the Patriots, following him sort of around the league and him signing with Miami and then back to New England. And I'm always happy for him to make the postseason. And I think there are certain guys, he might not be able to play every down per se, but certainly providing leadership to that locker room. They've had a lot of injuries. I've been one to criticize Staley. Chargers could make a little run, man. 2 games to play, and they're already in the dance.
Yeah, first of all, maybe you and Kyle Van Noy, I mean, you need a room. You need your own show on the Hammer Betting Network.
There you go.
But yeah, Justin Herbert. I do think he's a little bit of a wild card or maybe a playoff dark horse, right? Because of his nature just from the quarterback position to change a game. He's that good. And Austin Eckler is just an absolute bull. So, yeah, I mean, they got a shot. Head coach kind of is what it is, but don't love the kicking situation. But, yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm very curious to see how Cincinnati plays this weekend. So let's not get ahead of ourselves.
So anything else from you in Week 16 before we move on to Week 17?
No, I mean, I think I'm pretty much ready to go. I mean, I will say just in terms of some of the weather, Browns Saints, right? Like I took the 3 points with the Saints and maybe got a little bit fortunate that they ended up winning the game outright. But weather's a factor. So in that game, I know you made the pick before you knew the gravity of it, but laying points in that, you never want to be laying points when you know the weather's going to potentially be historic in terms of something that hasn't been seen in 25 or 30 years. So monitor the weather, folks, especially if you're playing totals.
So did you just blindly take that into the contest then? When I submitted the text to you, were you just like, fuck it,
if you really want to know? Yeah, because we're out of the money for all intents and purposes. That's why I went with your 5.
And I say that with all due respect. I was 5-0 last week. You should have known it was coming right back to earth. Right. A lot of luck involved, though, man. Like, it's like, in the contest, few games over 500, Anik squared, both of us a few games under 500. I'm sure if you took – a lot of people sort of hover because I do think there's a lot of luck involved. I would like you to make the first selection in Week 17, 1 game back. Let's hear it.
Never been more confident in a deficit in my life that eventually I will beat you head-to-head. First play for us in Week 17 of a possible 18 during the NFL's regular season. By the way, one important note for total players. In Week 16, 20 NFL teams scored 20 points or fewer. So if you like those team totals, man, bang those unders. All right, first play for me is going to be the Carolina Panthers +3 at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I do think you're going to get a pretty big effort out of Tom Brady and company. They can win the division here at home. Week 18 for the Bucs is at Atlanta. Week 18 for the Panthers is at New Orleans. Both teams have winnable games in Week 18. I just like the Carolina Panthers in current form. Certainly they are running through brick walls for your boy Stevie Wilkes. And I'm catching a key number here inside of division. Give me Carolina +3 at Tampa Bay to not only keep it close, but maybe win the game outright. Like Tampa Bay laying all these points at Arizona, got to win by 4. No, Carolina +3. Let's go. Let's go, Cats.
I'm trying not to be reactionary to the prior week. Therefore, my first selection, head-to-head against you. The Tampa Bay. I love you fucking laughing. We'll play this. And you're frozen too because your camera's shit. So you're frozen, lock back fucking laughing. Now you're moving. Excuse my language. But anyway, I hope you're laughing next week when Brady, when they finally put up 30 points. Anyway, I'm not sure why I'm doing this, to be honest with you. Steve Wilkes, I don't like going against him. Bucs so bad, NFL worst, 3-11-1 against the spread.
I think this I'm going to do it anyway.
I think this is where TB12 makes his run here. You know, you talk about week 18. It's a meaningless game against Atlanta. If the Bucs win here, they win the division, give themselves that bye before the Dallas Cowboys come to town in the postseason. Colin Cowherd, I know I mentioned him last week, but he puts it out there like Brady he gets these ugly wins. It's like, it's just a W for Tom sometimes. Last week, they're down 16-6, W for Tom. So I don't know, man. I just think you got to get it done here. I'm going to lay the 3 because I think Tampa Bay finds a way to sort of round into some sort of playoff form and be a team that maybe you don't want to face, dare I say it. They have put it together at the end of the game when it matters. And I know Brady hasn't looked great on the sidelines. I know he's been upset and different things, but I like that he keeps it real still. You know what I mean? You know what you're going to get. So give me the Bucs -3. That'll be a big swing on Anik Squared.
I really don't like that play, but yes, this head-to-head exercise that we're doing could very well come down to that very game. Second play for me, and the numbers are out there in different spots. I am seeing it at 7. I'm seeing it at 6.5, depending on where you play. Philadelphia Eagles, in all likelihood, with Gardner Minshew under center, -6.5 against the New Orleans Saints. I'm going to keep it quick. I'm going to keep it simple. It's not because I have any place to be, but I do try to be as prepared as possible when I sit down to tape Anik Squared. And you can say sometimes I let the noise in, but there are about 5 to 7 sharp NFL minds out there. And gosh, if they all aren't saying that the Philadelphia Eagles remain the class of the NFC, despite what happened in Dallas, despite the fact that they may not have Jalen Hurts, and when he does come back, he may not be 100%. But I'm laying less than a touchdown here with one of the best teams in the NFC, if not the class of the NFC, as everybody says, against one of the worst outfits in the NFC that I just don't have any confidence can put up a 30 burgers. So I think the Eagles get to 30 points at home. I don't think the Saints get past 21. Philadelphia 31, New Orleans 21, Eagles -6.5 in week 17.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on my second selection. My second selection as well, Eagles -6.5 versus the Saints. You know, they could have beat Dallas. They were right there with Minshew, even though he was a little shaky, couple picks. The Saints have won 2 straight. They're certainly competing. I just don't think they keep up with this Eagles team. Eagles lock up the 1 seed if they win this week. It is fascinating with Jalen Hurts because you talk about whether he's 100% or not. He's probably not going to play this week. Doesn't really matter for me on this side here, but what do you want to see from him, right? It's like, let's say they do win this week and next week doesn't matter. You know, and then you have the bye. It's like, what do you want? I mean, how many weeks would he get? 5-6 weeks off, and then he's going to sort of go out for a postseason game against what could be a very tough opponent. Fascinating, but either way, let's not get ahead of ourselves. My second pick, Eagles -6.5 versus the Saints as well.
All right, third selection for me, and I know not only are we probably on different sides of this game, but we probably both have different numbers. So as soon as word came down that Tua was not going to play for Miami, it went from 2.5 to 3. And I played the Dolphins +3 at the New England Patriots. I know, generally speaking, broad scope, you're not supposed to bet against a streak. Dolphins have lost 4 consecutive games. They actually now have a -5 point differential on the season, which is very interesting, right? That their opposition has actually scored more points than they have, because I still believe the Dolphins, you know, can make some noise if they were healthy enough getting into the playoffs. Week 18 for the Dolphins is going to be home against the New York Jets, right? Obviously, you don't want it to have to come down to that. But Dolphins +3 at New England. New England has to win the game by 4, not unlike my previous handicap. I know it's probably going to be Teddy Bridgewater, but I do think you can get the ball into the hands of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle pretty quickly. I think Miami's going to be able to run the ball against what has been a pretty stingy Patriots run defense, and I just think Miami's going to be able to get to 21 points or so. New England can't score the football. Miami +3 for me at New England. I think the Dolphins win the game outright and punch their ticket to the second season.
Yeah, you're right. I'm on the other side. And I did see Patriots -2.5. Yeah. So I'm going to take it if it's okay with our great producer, Zach Phillips. Yeah, I'm on the Patriots -2.5. I hate to say this, man, but like, I love the Patriots here. I don't believe in Teddy Bridgewater. I used to believe in Teddy Bridgewater, but I don't. Yeah, I like him. Certainly, it's pretty clear Tua is not going to play. So I'm sure he's getting the reps in practice, Bridgewater. So to me, that's a little bit of a benefit. the Patriots have beaten themselves, as I said earlier, in a lot of different ways. But it doesn't mean they can't win a meaningful football game here at home. The defense is legitimate. I don't think there's going to be a lot of weather, but Miami's reeling, and I believe in Miami with Tua. I really do. And look, they're up 20-10 at the half. I mean, one half of football didn't totally flip things for me in terms of how I feel about the Dolphins. But I just like the Patriots in this spot. It's like Patriots will go win this game, and then they'll be hugely disappointing the following week and lose the game or so, whatever it may be. But I like the Patriots here. I will just get into my season, my future bet. So I bet on the Dolphins to make the playoffs before the season plus 150. Certainly thought at 8-4 that was looking good. So that's shaky. But I also bet on the Patriots under 8.5 wins. So certainly as a Patriots fan here, I'm rooting for the Patriots, but my action, a Dolphins win here certainly puts them have a great chance to make the postseason. And certainly if the Patriots don't win here, that season wins. It's coming in. Anyway, Patriots minus 2.5, my third pick against you.
And again, as I looked right now, +3, minus 115 for the Dolphins. -3, minus 105. So you absolutely can take that 2.5. All right. Fourth of a possible 5 selections for me is going to be the New York Giants -5 home against the Indianapolis Colts. Why is this number 5? It should be 7.5. New York Giants going to make the playoffs. They're going to win this game by more than a touchdown. I just don't think Indianapolis really has anything for them. I think it's another big game for the New York Giants defense. And again, Daniel Jones greater than Mac Jones. I think he makes enough plays. Parlay with Saquon Barkley. Again, I don't know what this is going to close at. It's certainly not going to close at 5. I placed a $77 bet this morning. Giants -5, home to the Colts in Week 17. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I hear you on that. I mean, I don't know if Nick Foles is going to play quarterback. I'm with you, man. And sometimes just got to lay, we talk a lot about September and betting baseball in September. Obviously, if it's a run line, it's a run and a half, but typically it's a money line. But just the opportunities to bet on teams that sort of have really things to play for here. I mean, are the Colts playing? So Jeff Saturday gets a chance at this job. Like, next year, get out of here. Anyway, no, I like that side. My fourth selection, I'm going back to the well with the Detroit Lions, -6, home to the Chicago Bears. Dan Campbell's crew, man, big spot, man. They go at Green Bay Week 18. They win here. They're 8-8. They win next week 9-8. I think that's going to get you in. I am a little bit worried about Justin Fields getting loose against this porous run defense. Carolina ran all over them, as I alluded to earlier. But I like Detroit at home. I think they tighten up some of those issues. The Bears just sort of can't keep up with some of these offenses. I think Detroit has a ton to play for. I think the crowd's going to be fired up. I think this is one of those blowouts on the board. So this is an easy one for me. Lions -6 versus the Bears, my fourth.
Yeah, I like that. All right, last 2 games out for me. Steelers +3 at the Ravens. Not exactly sure what's going to happen with Lamar Jackson, but Pittsburgh still has a chance to get in. I expect a big effort out of Pittsburgh. I also like the Commanders with Carson Wentz coming back, -2 home to Cleveland. I think they win. They're still in the mix. Another team that controls its own destiny are the Washington Commanders. But I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers, still with a fighting chance to make the playoffs. -3, -120, but -3 home to the Minnesota Vikings. Week 18 for the Packers, they're home to Detroit. You got to think they feel like that's a really winnable game if they can get this Minnesota one. The tough game was going to be going to Miami and getting that win.
100%.
And they dealt with adversity and got it. So Packers land a short 3, may close 3.5, but Packers -3 against, gosh, I hate to say this in case any Vikings fans are watching, but still the somewhat fraudulent Minnesota Vikings, right?
Definitely.
They're going to finish the season like 14-2, 14-3, and they're just not a 14-3 team. Packers -3.
Can't wait to watch that game. I don't think my next selection and final selection is going to surprise you than the Monday night game. There's no question who we're going with. Who they? So I almost texted our guy, Big Gun, Brian Petrie of the Anik and Florian podcast, before the Patriots-Bengals game. And what I was going to write, and the reason I didn't send this because I was going to, and you were going to be on the group text, I was going to be like, go Bengals. I hate to say it. They just feel like there are stakes, and I cannot get enough of this team. I can't get enough of Joe Burrow. Anyway, a lot at stake here for both teams. The Bills lose here and they go from the 1 seed to the 3 seed, might have to come back to Cincinnati in the postseason. There's a tremendous amount at stake. I think Kansas City's going to win out. So I think the Bills really need to win here. I just can't get enough of the Cincinnati Bengals. They've won 7 in a row. I know the Bills have won 6 in a row. It's going to be a mild, I think 60 degrees in Cincinnati. So if it was a colder game, I do kind of like Buffalo in colder situations. To me, I think that lays up well for the Bengals. I think they're super hot. And I can't get enough of Joe Burrow. I believe the confidence he instills in that locker room, it's like they're walking out to that field 100% thinking they're the better team than the Buffalo Bills, who everyone anointed Super Bowl champ. They're the better team. We made the Super Bowl last year. We're going back again. We might even be the 1 seed. Give me Bengals +1 at the Bills Monday night. I can't wait.
I like it. And yeah, there's no doubt Burrow is a unifying force and the ultimate competitor. So I like that. He's also a big UFC fan.
Sure.
He'll be there like as soon as the season's over. UFC prelim #1. He'll be in his front row seat. Gotta love it. One other thing I just wanted to say on the way out. We mentioned the Commanders, Patriots, Dolphins in control of their own destiny. The New York Giants just need 1 win. Week 18, Titans at the Jaguars playing for the division. Right now, Tennessee is +6 on DraftKings Sportsbook. Can't play on DraftKings in Florida. I might be inclined to play Titans +6 in an elimination game at Jacksonville. I don't know. I mean, I love Jacksonville. I love Trevor Lawrence. I think they're going to be a really fun outfit to watch going forward, right? Duval County, bandwagon's getting crowded. But I don't know. Tennessee catching almost a touchdown, especially if Derrick Henry sits this Thursday night. Fresh legs for D. Henry in an essentially what is a playoff game in Week 18. I don't know.
I just think Malik Willis would have to make a huge jump. There's certain guys that just don't appear ready to lead a professional offense. Anyway, another episode in the book, and the NFL just keeps giving, right? So Week 17, you think it'd be the last week? Nope, another regular season week next week. Anyway, for the great Zach Phillips and my identical twin brother, Jon Anik, my name is Jason Anik. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week on Anik Squared. Later.